Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tori and this is Holy City Mystic. Thank you so much for being here. So today we are going to continue to talk about the planetary dignities and we're going to be discussing the moon. So before I get into the different placements of the moon and what they could mean, let's just talk about the moon for a second. So the moon is your soul. It's your inner world. It's the filter through which you experience everything. The moon can also be your mother. It can also be how you mother others, how you mother yourself, and also kind of your emotions, how they are again perceived by you, and also how sensitive they are and different things that they will pay attention to as well. So the moon in domicile, the moon rules the sign of Cancer. So if you think about domicile, domesticity, all those things, it has to do with the home. So the moon is at home when it's in Cancer, which is the sign of the crab, the sign of the mother. Now going back to the flavor analogies, this would be your double chocolate. This would be super intensity of the moon. So individuals who have this placement not only have kind of the most tender and raw emotions there are, but they also experience this great care for their emotions. So oftentimes people with moon in Cancer will be drawn to some kind of caring role in the world. So either, caring for their friends and family at home, caring for their children, or more of like a therapist role or something like that where they can actually nurture and care for the emotions of others as well. Oftentimes these people are very close to their mothers, or if they were not able to be close to their mothers, that is a huge wound for them because the draw to have that motherly connection is so intense and so strong for them. So again, oftentimes when they are children, they are ridiculed and criticized for being too sensitive because, these might even be the people who absorb other people's emotions without really realizing it. So they can just walk through a public place and feel exhausted afterwards, like absolutely emotionally exhausted because they absorbed everything around them. Also, self-care is more than a buzzword for these people. These people, if they are not able to get back in touch with themselves and back in touch with their energy and without bringing in anybody else's energy, they will get physically ill. They will become sick. So again, it's that double chocolate. It's that really intense moon placement where just because the moon is at home there doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best placement possible. It just means that that energy is super intense. So the moon in Exaltation is going to be the moon in Taurus. Now, if we're still going along with that flavor analogy, this is going to be your chocolate and peanut butter mix, or that, chocolate and pretzel mix, like whatever it is that is something that is so good you could eat like 1,000,000 of them without even really realizing it. Taurus is ruled by Venus, and Venus is all about attraction and, love and feeling things. Like it's a very sensual sign. And so, good smells and textures and tastes and like all these really amazing things, because your emotions are there. The moon is in Taurus. Those things are so real to you. So I always love the idea of having a child with the moon in Taurus. I don't have a single one, but the idea of it I really love. Where it's like they come home from a really long day and it's just been terrible for them and you feel so sorry for them and you wish you could have, just like taken care of them all day, but the best you can do is they come home and you have those fresh baked, still warm and gooey chocolate chip cookies for them, and they just have this entire stress melt. Because just that smell and taste and texture, all those things, it just goes straight to their heart. Like they just feel so connected and so taken care of by that. These are also the individuals where if you get them fresh flowers, if you get them something really nice, something that is kind of statusy, where it was like a little bit expensive, but also something they can really use, those things, they feel so seen, so taken care of. Clean spaces are really important to them. Anything where it's like, it's that Venus beauty connected with that emotional connection. Those things are just they just hit on such a deeper level than they would for any other sign. So where the moon is in detriment is going to be opposite of where it is in domicile. So because it's in domicile in Cancer, it's going to be in detriment in Capricorn. Now what do we know about Capricorn? Capricorn is all about building. It's about climbing the corporate ladder. It's about, strategic ways of getting ahead and stuff like that. And so you think about the moon and having like all these really deep emotions and connections. Oftentimes these people, they want to know how things work. They're very curious to see what happens there. And so where you have that connection with Taurus, where you want to have like, really beautiful things or sensual things, like very sensitive to the senses. I don't know how to say that. In Capricorn, you want really practical things, like things that will help you get ahead, things that will help you in your day-to-day things that you have to do. Status is also very important to them. Feeling important, feeling like they're making progress in life, even if it's slow progress, because Saturn is also ruling Capricorn, and Saturn is patient. Saturn has a lot to do with father time and waiting for things to happen. And so also because Saturn is so cold, there can be more of a coldness when it comes to emotion, not having as much warmth and connection with other people, but again, more of a practical way to do it. So, these could also be the people who in relationships, they pay very close attention to their partner and they come up with like a list of how to do everything correctly. And once they do everything correctly, they kind of check it off. So, not a whole lot of spontaneity, not a whole lot of, just pure connection. It's more like, okay, we're going to do this correctly and we're going to, do it this many times and that's how we get ahead. That's how we make sure we get things done. So again, more of that distance from that pure emotion. And there can even be some cases where there's a disconnect between your emotions, where you don't have that really pure understanding of your emotions and it kind of gets moved into more of an intellectual space because of that. And someone with a moon in Cancer will be like, oh, that's incorrect. You have to process everything. You really have to get in there and feel it all. You don't. I mean, if your moon is in Capricorn, embrace it. Understand that those are your strengths. You don't really have to go to a really deep place with it. If you feel like you do and you have other placements where you just really feel like you need that for healing, absolutely go for it. But I mean, don't try to fit a square peg into a round hole. Like, you have your moon in Capricorn. That has a ton of strengths. It has a lot of really great things that you can do with it. And you don't necessarily have to go to that really soft moon place of Cancer or even Taurus. So that's the moon in Detriment. Moon in Fall. I love this one, Scorpio. So the moon in Fall, again, Cancer is all about that really fluffy, all-encompassing, like warm hug of a moon. What do we know about Scorpio? It's ruled by Pluto and it's ruled by Mars. Mars is all about, cutting to the chase, like actually getting things done and, cutting out all the fluff, all the, stuff that we don't really need anymore. Pluto is all about diving deep. It's the detective. It's going down into the underworld. It's cutting underneath the surface and seeing what's there. And so when you have your moon in Scorpio, there's this intensity to your emotions. And there's this like investigative quality to it where you want to know why, you want to go deep into the psychology of it. And so, you have the moon in Capricorn, which is more of like ruled by Saturn, which is more of like an intellectualizing of the emotions. And then you kind of have the moon in Scorpio where it's more like a hacking of the emotions, where it's like, if I can understand all the psychology behind it, I don't necessarily have to feel anything anymore. So you have this energy of like Scorpio, the detective, trying to go underneath things and not necessarily trusting your emotions because you want to get to truth. You want to have that iron of Mars cutting through the BS, cutting through the fluff, which the moon has a lot to do with fluff. There's a lot of fluff in our emotions and that's okay. But you have that in Scorpio. And so oftentimes, moon in Scorpio, they're not going to understand very well the people who need that fluff. They're not really going to understand someone who is purely honoring every little thing that they're feeling because they have those other qualities sewn in there. And so that is why the moon would be in Fall there. So again, if you have any of these placements, you're not cursed, you're not in trouble, you're not doing it wrong. You really don't have to be anything other than what you are. So I really hope this helps you. I hope you feel validated wherever your moon does fall. If you have any stories, I would love to hear them. I always think those are really hilarious when people tell me about differences with their moons. I hope you guys are doing okay and take care.